morning, everybody. Welcome to a special episode here on the Digital Trade Show podcast. I am live in Las Vegas at the Dental and Medical Insurance Extravaganza. Very, very excited to be here. Christine Taxon has put on an awesome event, a lot of great speakers, and also we've got some great companies here that are at the event, and I'm spending time with them in the next couple of days. And interestingly enough, when I come to these meetings, sometimes you find people that are in the industry doing great things and get to talk with them, and that's actually who I have with me here this morning. I've got ChrisTorres, who is a wealth preservation specialist from Eagle Financial Group, and we were just talking about some of the things that he is working with in dentistry right now. He was actually brought as a guest from Ben Tuanay, who is an amazing speaker who's going to be speaking later today. And so, pleasure to have you, Christopher.
Thank you. I want to give Ben some respect. We met 5 years ago at the Dental Success Summit, Mark Costas event, and we got to talking. And I said, well, what's your favorite team? He said, the Atlanta Braves. So if you don't see Ben around, he's watching the game. Gotcha. You know, that's game one's today, so he's pretty pumped up.
It is. It's baseball season, definitely.
Exactly.
Well, thanks again for coming on the podcast. And I know we were just talking a little bit before about some of the things that you're dealing with in regards to working with dentists, and more along the lines of cash, or many of them that have been very, very successful in what has been a great industry for many of them, a great profession, and some of the things that you're helping them with. So, let's talk a little bit about maybe your background and how you got to where you are. And love to know what you're doing to help.
Yeah, fast forward study. I started the business in 1992 and came out to see a friend in Phoenix in January of 2004 and thought I found paradise.
Right.
So I go home and ask my wife, what would you think of moving to Phoenix? And she said, when do we leave? I found out years later that she actually slipped in the driveway on ice and had enough. So we had a daughter going into 7th grade and a son starting 1st grade. She said, if we don't leave now, we're not leaving.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I take orders pretty well. We're out of here.
Right.
So moved to Phoenix in July and figured out why everybody doesn't live there, because of the heat.
Sure.
So fast forward, I've been working primarily through different events, different speaking engagements in the dental community, from Washington, D.C. to Sacramento. I've been really blessed to have a lot of good clients. And it's interesting, in 2018, people generally are hearing about cryptocurrency and this and that, and Chris, is this the new way to make money? I don't know if it's the new way to make money. I know a gentleman's lost a lot of money in cryptocurrency, but I think it's something that's out there. It's not proven yet to my satisfaction, especially when you see it get beat up like it does. But again, people have a hot idea or a new idea. And what I do is basically like Vince Lombardi, just blocking and tackling. I mean, basic football. This is basic stuff. And if you do it well enough, you'll go to the Super Bowl. So what I try to help my dentist with is the Super Bowl of finances. Mm-hmm. That's really it, blocking and tackling. Let's just talk simple ideas. It's something I was sharing with you. Dentists will say, we've been really fortunate. I have 2, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months cash setting. Well, that's fantastic. Congratulations. Right. But what are you getting for your cash? And I'm sharing with you this story Monday, what happened with me. I was with a very successful gentleman that had $1.5 million in the bank. And he said, what do you think I received in interest last year? I said, I'm too embarrassed to ask. Why don't you share it with me? He said, I received a check for $90 for all the interest on $1.5 million. So I've been told by a couple of successful people that I need to talk to you, and fortunately we've started collaborating, which is nice. But what I'm seeing is people are working hard every day, but how do I make my money work harder than I do? Mm-hmm. One of the simple ways that we do this is really with the concept of infinite banking, where it says, listen, if I can have a dollar perform more than one function, I'm doing pretty well. Mm-hmm. Because right now, people will let their money sit in the bank, do nothing. It's there if I need it. One of the big protection pieces in this whole conversation is that there's 11 states, John, where if a person has money in their privatized banking, infinite banking, life insurance policy, whole life dividend paying life insurance policy, then the dollars in those policy are creditor proof, which is huge. If we're going to talk protection, let's just start with that conversation. But in addition to Am I going to get stock market-like returns? No, absolutely not. Let me be clear. There's not going to be any misleading here. If you can make 2 to 3 points more than you're making in a savings account, then you're going to be better served. And if I have access to that cash, even better. Because why? Dentists, as you know, Chris, we want to build a new website. Chris, we're going to buy a second office. Chris, we want to get another piece of real estate. Whatever it is, you ask a dentist 10 different ways to make money and you'll get 10 different ideas. So what this does is acts as a super Roth IRA with access to the cash whenever you want it. In a Roth IRA, the most you can put in typically is $5,000. Now, in this idea, there's really no limit to what you can put in. If a dentist says, I can put in $100,000 or $50,000 or 20, whatever the number is, okay, well, we can do that. Well, how does it act like a Roth? You never pay the taxes on it as it grows, and then you can remove those dollars whenever you would like, tax-free. Now, as we go down this road, people always want to say, well, what else can I do? If it acts like a super Roth where it's very pleasing to me tax-wise, or no taxes, or tax-deferred, tax-favorable, well, then what happens as I'm going down this path? If you have an emergency, you can have access to the cash. If you need it for whatever reason, I was sharing with you, if it's land acquisition, social media, whatever it is fine. But it goes a step further. Well, what if I want to use the dollars there for funding college? Then use them. You can do that. I was very blessed. One of my children attended a Division I school on a scholarship. Go Vanderbilt. Now, with that said, it's also nice to know that if I would have used the capital or needed the capital, it was there.
Right.
And it doesn't count against your FAFSA, against your financial aid.
Sure.
So a lot of people aren't told that when they do a Coverdale or a 529 plan.
Right.
So this becomes the answer to them. Gee, how can I take advantage of this? Well, here's another idea. So it could be used for remodeling. Some people say, hey, Chris, if I do this remodel, I'm going to have to take cash out. I will have to delay putting money in for retirement this year. Well, here's what I call double dipping, if you will. Because in this type of structure that I set up for dentists, the dentist can actually take money out of the policy for a remodel in this case, John, and still get interest on those dollars as if they're still there. Now think how powerful that is. I'm double dipping.
Right.
I get interest on my dollars that are gone because I get the dollars from the insurance company. So I've been able to share that a few hundred times this year, and every time it's, how come I didn't know about this?
Right.
Right. Because what? We're bombarded with information. Yep. Hey, everybody knows an apple a day is a good idea, but how many people eat an apple a day? Well, yeah, but there's a Snicker bar at 7-Eleven. It's on sale.
Right, right, exactly.
So it's just habits. It's just habits, So my goal is really get people in that habit of thinking bigger because we've always done it this way. We've always stored cash in the bank.
Right.
Same idea, but if you have just as much safety or, quite frankly, more safety, then you're going to be better off.
Right. It's interesting to me, Christopher, because I think, to your point, that, in a dental practice, they're busy doing what they love to do, which is serving their patients and things like that.
Absolutely.
And so you can see and understand why 1 month turns into 6 months, turns into a year, that cash goes in there, there's that safety there.
Right.
But it's interesting because I think that there are so many things, to your point, creative that have been brought to the financial market that, like you said, people just don't know about.
Right.
And I think that's what's great about what you're doing. And talk a little bit about when you have, let's say you're referred from a client or that they refer you to another dentist or what have you. What are some of the initial conversations that you have? I'm always curious when there's that awareness of,
right.
They have to accept, wow, this is cool. This is something new out there.
Right.
And, share a little bit about that.
Yeah, here's a different idea. So what's interesting is whether it's a go-to meeting, Zoom meeting, or face-to-face, whatever the case may be, or I'm speaking at a conference, they're very open with me. Chris, I heard you off the stage, or you were a referral from John, et cetera. What can I do to help you? Because they know there's something better, but they don't know how to get there.
Right.
So, my first question to them is, how much money do you need to live on? Well, I don't know what you mean by that. Okay, what does it cost you to run this practice? $25,000 a month.
Right.
Fair enough.
Right.
And you've been practicing 15 years. Okay. What if I could show you a better idea that said, let's just take 3 months of cash flow and the rest we'll have working harder for you. Well, how would you do that? Well, remember going back to the apple a day analogy.
Right.
Let me show you a way, instead of accepting 1/4% of interest
Right.
on this pile, let's leave you 90 days cash, which I can tell by your statements you don't even use. It just
Right.
sits there because you'll take out your Bank of America statement, your Wells Fargo statement, whatever it is, and all you'll see is deposits. I mean, there's nothing coming
Right.
out. Great,
Yeah.
but this is how you act. This is your behavior. This is your habit. So they do this, and I say, listen, on this $75,000, you're getting 1/4% interest. If we look at doing it my way, you'll make at least quadruple the interest and have all these other benefits come along for the ride. So they'll say, whoa, I'm so sorry. So they'll say to me, Chris, that's a great strategy, but I'm with, let's use Bank of America right now. I'm with Bank of America. What would they say of this strategy? Now, this is what, John, really makes them go, I totally get it. The best kept secret in banking right now is Tier 1 capital. Now, Tier 1 capital was mandated by the government that says this is the safest place you can put your cash. So, John, let me ask you, where do you think banks put their cash? Once they have cash, where do they put it?
That's a good question.
Well, I thank you for that. And I've had a lot of dentists look me down and go, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I never stopped to think. I just put money in it, right? Well, let me share this with you. Bank of America has $22 billion in cash value life insurance. 22 billion with a B. Wells Fargo has 20 billion. Chase has 18 billion. That is the safest place that they can put their own money. Well, to which I'll share with the client, I don't care what bank you're with. I can literally go to the FDIC website and show you their most recent filing with the FDIC and exactly how much money they have setting in cash value life insurance.
Right.
And it's typically in the billions.
Right.
So if it's good enough for Bank of America and $22 billion, maybe this concept would work for you.
Right.
Because why? The government says this has to be Tier 1 capital. This has to be the safest place, undoubtedly, you can put money. They just happen to use the asset that's been around a couple of hundred years.
Right.
So, I started with Bitcoin and what I've seen there. So if I can share that story with a dentist, well, here's what's worked for a couple of hundred years. Here's the FDI website. You tell me the bank and I'll type in the name.
Sure.
And this is how much cash they're holding in life insurance.
Yeah.
The other side of the coin is looking at Bank of America. Bank of America typically makes 1,600% on your money. They have a beautiful spread. Right. Now, how do they do that? They pay the consumer 1/3%, and they're making over 5.5% between credit application fees, overdraft fees. Now, just think about that for a second. So for every dollar you put on deposit, Bank of America, for doing nothing more but having a storefront, is making $16 on it. So any of your listeners with an Apple iPhone or any kind of phone or a basic calculator, take 1 times 1,600% equals 16. That's your spread.
Right.
Because as dentists say, this is their number one answer. It doesn't matter if I'm working with a dentist, a successful real estate agent, a developer, or business owner. First they go, I can't believe I'm letting the bank make 1,600% on my money.
Right.
But here's the bigger part. There's no risk to them. You realize all they are is the middleman.
Right.
That's it.
Yep.
So once they realize, well, if the banks are making that kind of money, I want to make that kind of money.
Right.
So that's when I ask them, well, what do you think they're doing with their cash? Chris, that's a good question. I have no idea. So then I can prove to them, here's the FDIC website. You might find this helpful. Because why? We were always taught growing up, if you want to be a great football player, watch a film on Jerry Rice and see what Jerry Rice's work ethic, or Michael Jordan. If you want to act like the bank, find out what the bank's doing.
Right.
Well, this is what the bank is doing. Maybe you want to pursue that course of activity. And then the light's gone, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
If I still have access to my cash, if I have creditor protection, if I'm disabled, I'm covered, I have access to the cash, this is a no-brainer. We're talking about Ben, and that was his immediate response. When I laid it out for him, I said, Chris, this is an absolute no-brainer. And this is the same gentleman that you'll be interviewing later today. I can remember like yesterday, I'm literally in a parking lot in New Jersey. I was going to dinner with a client, and he called me and said, I just want to say thank you. I said, well, you're one of my dearest friends. Why are you thanking me? Because when you told me this, it sounded so good to be true, I couldn't believe, but I did it anyway out of respect for you. And I am looking at this piece of paper going, oh, my God, it's even better than I thought it was, right? And he said, I can tell you, as a business owner, a dad, a husband, I've bought a lot of things. Do you know this is the only thing I've ever purchased that outperformed what I was told? Right. Because it's that habit.
Yeah, so it's a lower expectation, like you said.
Exactly.
There's not a high expectation of what people are what they're used to when they think of anything of a financial instrument that they're going to use.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, I'll meet a dentist and he says, I'm maxing out my Keogh plan or my Simple plan or my 401k. And I said, well, that's great, but it would seem to me you're practicing reverse tax planning. Wait, what do you mean by that? Well, you're putting money away today for the deduction so you can pay full taxes on it later when you need it the most.
Right. And that's just, as you know, those are products that have been out there for many, many years.
Right.
And that's what people did. That's what people know. That's the way it is. And they don't realize that as these years have gone past, there's been a lot more creative instruments that have been brought to the industry.
Right.
Yeah.
And certainly some of the track record, because, if you're a dentist, what are people doing? Hey, what's that track record? What's that look like? And that's why it's come back and say, listen, this has worked for 200 years.
Right.
Right? Now let's look at, well, who else is using? Because just like anything else, where can I get my validation? Mm-hmm. Well, where do you bank? I bank at Wells Fargo. Okay, here's their FDIC report, or the Bank of Pittsburgh. It could even be a regional. Like I was sharing with you earlier, I spent time in Nashville. Regions Bank is big there. I can just pull up their statement. Okay, here's how many billion they have. Mm-hmm. You might want to consider this.
Sure.
Because why? I can make my money work harder. Now, the fact that I can create this tax-free pool of money for me later in life, even better. Oh, and I'm protected for long-term care? Yes. And. But again, John, it goes back to what you said, but we've always done it this way. So kind of, my job is, here's a 200-year track record you've never heard of because it's been so bad-mouthed in the press or a national syndicated show that the truth never gets out.
Sure.
And then I can just, and I'm not going to get into the management fees and blah, blah, blah of what companies charge because there isn't a management fee.
Right.
So, I've been really fortunate, and I just love sharing the story because people just don't know.
Yeah.
It's like everybody, I would have done this years ago. Well, I didn't meet you years ago. I just met you at this conference. So, thank you.
Yeah. Well, this is great. And again, I think it was one of the main reasons why, Christopher, that I wanted to even start this podcast, because I think there are so many things out there, great things that people are doing in the industry, products or services that dental professionals just need to know about. And this is certainly one of those. So I really appreciate you coming on and talking about that. And how can people find out more about you or take advantage
it's funny.
of that?
I was sharing with you before we went on. I've always very much pride myself on getting back to my clients and people just trying to get with me. So I asked them to text me, the 602-616-9318. That's your real phone? I was sharing with you, the attorney. You actually give out your cell phone. Yeah, it's unlimited.
Sure.
Right. And 87% of adults, think about this, Sean, 87% of adults have a cell phone within 3 feet of them at all times.
Yes.
Just the culture we live in. Now, my kids are 26 and 20, but, I'll go through Sky Harbor Airport or wherever I'm flying into that week, and there's a 5-year-old playing a game. I mean, it is what it is, right? So I asked them to just text me, 602-616-9318. I'm in Phoenix. Just say, Chris, heard the interview, would like to connect. Great. All I need to know is where you live, and that's out of respect for you. I don't want, hey, can you call me at blank, and, well, you're on the East Coast, and now I'm waking you up at 4 in the morning, or, whatever the case may be. Just, I'm in Houston, or I'm in Florida, or, whatever.
Right.
And then that's really as technical as it gets. I keep our first interview to 17 minutes, and that's just out of TED Talk culture.
Sure.
You lose the audience after 17 minutes, so I have a timer. I've done it about 1,000 times this year. I keep it to 17 minutes. Here's what I talked about in the interview, and if you want to work further together, great, and if you're good, fine. Because my only job, just like you, John, distribute education. Distribute education. I know what I have to say is valuable, but the public's going to determine just how valuable is that piece.
Exactly.
But if you know you're telling the truth, you won't have a problem.
Exactly. Well, Christopher, thank you so much. This has
Absolutely.
been awesome. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I'm glad that we ran into each other here at the conference.
Right, and they can email me too at the address if you can. I don't have my glasses on.
Yeah, I've got it. So it looks so c.e.torres, Torresaz at gmail.com. That's c.e.torresaz at gmail.com.
Perfect, and go Braves.
Go Braves, that's right. Baseball season is upon us.
The Dodgers and the Braves, they're going to get it on today, and it's going to be fantastic baseball. And living in Arizona, I don't want to talk about the Cardinals this year, so that's where we're going to end this.
Let's before we do, how about a World Series prediction?
Wow. My mom is a gigantic Braves fan. My heart says the Braves. So I'm just going to take the Braves all the way. My daughter now lives in Manhattan, so I'd love the Yankees to win. Quick story. Out of school, she took a job in Chicago, and they won the World Series. Now she's been promoted to New York. I'm just saying.
Uh-oh.
I'm just saying.
All right.
You know, you never
Gotta
know.
go through
Maybe a
Boston
Brave,
first.
right? And if it's
Gotta
a
go
Braves
through Boston
Yankees
first.
World Series,
Yes.
yeah. I win either way, right?
That's
I win
right.
either way.
That's right. And I'm a Cleveland guy, so they got to go through the Indians first. But the Indians got to get past the Astros. So
That's the coldest baseball game I was blessed years ago. I went to Game 3 of the World Series between the Marlins and the Indians.
Yes.
It was the first time in the history of the World Series it snowed during the game.
Yes.
And I was there.
Yes.
I'd never been that cold. And my wife's from Ohio. She's like, you're going to be miserable. I'm like, oh, how bad? And I remember I'm watching baseball going, this is insane.
Yeah, that's not right. Something's not right.
Something's not right.
Something's not right.
And you have
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield fever anyway.
That's right.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
We got Cleveland is we lost LeBron, but we got a lot of exciting things going on.
Right.
So we'll see what the Indians
Yeah,
do.
exactly. Hey, you have more wins than the Cardinals.
Thanks, Chris. It's been great.
Thank you.
Really
Enjoyed
appreciate
it.
your time. Good
Thanks,
luck
John.
the rest of the weekend.